How has the pandemic changed the way we may be commuting in the future? What does that future look like, and what role does technology have to play? Now, just to answer some of those questions, I want to introduce our wonderful panel. Firstly, James Peng, the CEO of Pony.ai, Yan Li, the CEO of Niu Technologies, and Edward Xu, the Chief Strategy Officer at Ehang. James, I want to kick the conversation off with you because we're talking about the pandemic and driverless cars, of course, no driver there in the seat. It seems like a mode of transport that could be quite well suited to the post-pandemic age. Has the COVID-19 pandemic actually accelerated the commercialization of autonomous driving as you see it?
Yeah, Arjun, yes. I think absolutely. What we have seen is that the pandemic has put more demand on contactless, a safer way of transportation. In fact, during the pandemic, we accelerated our R&D efforts. And in this time around, when resurgence of the virus in Guangzhou, where some of the district was quarantined, we actually did send out our fully driverless vehicles to send the medical workers to the region and also send in many much needed goods to the region. So this is just a way of showing that the new technology will help with fighting with the pandemic. And what we can imagine that after the post-pandemic era, people will get more familiar, more comfortable with fully driverless vehicles. And we're ready for push that.
Interesting, James. Now, Edward, I want to come on to you because, of course, with Ehang drones, again, no pilot in the seat. So has the COVID-19 pandemic actually accelerated commercialization? And what's your process, your timeline, Edward, towards that sort of broader adoption of autonomous passenger drones?
Yeah, thank you. So actually, we understand that the COVID-19 in China did accelerate the commercialization of our AAV, which is autonomous air vehicle. We did participate the anti-COVID-19 actions twice. Last year, when the COVID-19 just firstly break out in Hezhou, we did put in our Ehang 216 autonomous air vehicle to transport goods and medical supplies and even passengers to the hospitals. And in this year, just suddenly Guangzhou had escalate the situation. So we did also put in a team with our big AAVs and the smaller AAVs. For the smaller Falcon AAVs, we did send the parcels with medicals. And also we put in our Ehang 216. We have two versions. One is Ehang 216L, which is for logistics. The other one is the normal Ehang 216 for passengers. So we put in several AAVs to send the medical supplies from outside of the quarantine zone into the quarantine zone. And in this way, we provide very fast, prompt service to the people and to the passengers who need it. And going forward, we are working with the CAC, which is the Chinese government officials, to accelerate the commercialization of our product. For example, right now we already had 2 meetings with the CAC officials, and with the aim to commercialize with airworthiness certification of our AAV within the next maybe 24 months time.
Great. And Yan, for you, how are you rethinking urban travel at this point? Because one of the conversations was, well, after cities recover from the pandemic, will people be comfortable going back onto public transport? But one of the things I've seen here in Guangzhou, Yan, is the fact that actually public transport is very busy. So how do your e-bikes, your e-scooters fit into the future of travel within cities?
No, Arjun, I think that's a great question. So basically, since the pandemic and also this year, we actually see a huge demand on individual urban mobility devices. As you know, that our scooters, as well as the current, this year we announced the e-bikes as well as the kick scooters, really focus on individual urban mobility. And that we have seen a huge demand on that. And even our Q1 results, we shipped more than 150, well, close to 150,000 units, which is about 3.7x of growth over last year. So I think even after pandemic, we do see that even in China, that people are actually feel riding a scooter, commuting from A to B is actually much faster and more convenient. Actually, a more freedom way of doing that than taking in public transportation. So we don't see the trend of people going back to public transportations. A lot of people start getting used to on those individual mobility devices, and I think that's actually a good trend for us.
Of course, with all of your different forms of transport, there are a number of challenges that need to be overcome in order to bring this to the masses. And James, I want to start with you here on this point. It looks like technology is getting into place, regulations coming into place, but there are a number of challenges, such as convincing consumers that driverless cars are safe, or the infrastructure, for example. So James, as you see it, how do you, what are some of the big challenges you expect, and how do you expect those to be overcome?
Yeah, that's a great summary of the challenges for the autonomous driving. You correctly summarized the three challenges: technical, the regulation, and the consumer acceptance. I think from the technical point of view, we have made progress in leap and bounds in the last several years. As I already mentioned, now we are already providing the public-facing robotaxi services in 5 cities across the globe. And we do see the customers actually start enjoying them. And we also obtained fully driverless testing permit in California. And we are about to get some permit in China as well. And we are start testing the fully driverless. So in the technical front, we do see a great progress. Regulation-wise, I think in both China and the US, we have seen a very accommodating local governments and on the state and also in the central government level, there's some regulations in supporting the development and the deployment of autonomous driving vehicles. Then to the last part that Arjun, you mentioned, is the customer acceptance. I think in that front, it's just takes time for customer to get used to how they feel the autonomous driving is actually a safer and more convenient way of transportation. Just giving you an example, right? Currently, as I mentioned, we offer the public-facing robotaxi in 5 cities. And we do see that the first time when a customer into a driverless vehicle, he or she may feel a bit uneasy, but just after 5 minutes, they will fall into their regular routine, looking at their cell phone or even taking a nap. So we do see as we are showing how safe, how reliable our services are, the customers will accept this. In fact, I also want to give you one stats to end this answer, is that we see there's a multiple surveys on the customer acceptance on robotaxi, on autonomous driving across the different countries, and China is ranked as one of the highest. So I do think that as long as we can continue to make progress to show the customers is safe and reliable, customer will come.
And Edward, just a similar question for you. It seems in terms of autonomous passenger drones, the regulation is slightly further behind, say, versus driverless cars at this point. And the other thing I would assume, Edward, is also, again, convincing passengers it's safe to fly in one of your vehicles as well. How do you see some of the biggest challenges and how you overcome them?
Well, I think right now, the biggest bottleneck comes from the regulation, because so far, there is no regulation, there is no precedence in the past that, which allow the AAV to fly over the urban area. And so, but right now the situation is becoming more convincing, because we did had the trial flight over about 43 cities in 8 countries with more than 12,000 flights done. So for each flight, we did a very good, feedback from our passengers. Because at the beginning, maybe, before you see this AAV, you may be concerned or afraid to take a ride. But once you take on it, a very typical comment by a passenger is that this just feel like a lift, because it is very smooth and very stable with a very limited amount of noise. So relative to helicopters, this is much safer, because we do have the power redundancy, which means that we have 16 propellers versus only 1 propeller for the conventional helicopter. And moreover, this is fully autonomous, that it fully eliminates the risk of any human errors in the flight. And finally, we have this flight from point A to point B. For this route, we have predetermined and also did the test by smaller drones. So this is to eliminate any obstacles on this route. So all these measures help to ensure very high safety level. So when we tell this to our passengers and the reals, that the passengers see what they have, that the passengers real experience the flight. So very soon the passengers will very adapt to it. So right now, all we need is to work with the government officials to get the certification. And right now, I can assure that we've got many government officials taking our flight, and we've got a very positive feedback from them.
Great. And Yan, for your products, your e-bikes, e-scooters, sometimes, I'm walking around Guangzhou or another major Chinese city, see people flying past with these bikes. It doesn't always feel like the infrastructure is there, and sometimes the regulation as well. So Yan, when you look at the development of your products and also broader appeal amongst consumers, what do you think needs to develop in order for it to have a more mass market appeal?
Well, I think first of all, it is already a mass market. China-wise, there are about actually 200 million people using the e-scooters. And globally, I think if you look at European market, United States market, adding it together annually, there are about 5 to 6 million of sales of e-bikes and 5 to 6 million of sales of kick scooters annually. So it's actually, people across the globe for urban mobility are adapting those transportation devices. And on top of that, we're actually seeing multiple trends. One trend in China was actually from the traditional lead acid battery, which were really heavy, to a lithium battery, which make those e-scooters are very light, under 55 kilo, and that actually will make it much safer for people to travel. Also, in China, there are regulations in terms of the top speed on those e-scooters should be under 25 kilometers per hour. So that will also allow people to provide a safer travel environment. I think globally similar thing is actually in Europe. We are seeing Germany, a few countries actually making laws on kick scooters, making them a standard for a urban mobility device for the kick scooters to allow the road rides on the kick scooters. And in terms of e-bikes, it's always been there. And the second, I think, it's all about technology upgrade. Is actually from what we call the conventional non-smart to a smart. Means the device are IoT connected, data being sent to the cloud, that the device can support the over-the-air upgrade that allow users to get a better driving experience or riding experience on those devices, such that even though without autonomous driving, because two-wheelers are actually difficult to do autonomous driving, the users can still experience basically the modern technologies. Once in a while, once every couple months or so, you get a new firmware, new software upgrade on your bike, on the e-scooters that provide a longer driving distance or provide a better handling.
So we've got just a couple minutes left here, so I want you all to put on your forward-thinking hats, your future-looking hats at this point, and give me your outlook. Jan, let me start with you at this point as well. You know, your e-scooters are being used around urban mobility. What is your vision for how they eventually fit in to people's daily lives, to their daily commutes and the way they move around?
No, I think the whole urban mobility is a big topic, right? It requires multiple form factor of transportations, anywhere between public transportations to the driverless self-driving robo-taxis, to individual urban mobility devices like e-scooters and e-bikes that can satisfy the people's daily commute. Anywhere between, we're looking at what we call the micro-mobility, basically the daily commute from 0 to 10 kilometer distance. I think that daily commute from 0 to 10 kilometer distance represent what we call the massive or the majority of the people's daily trips. And I think currently we're looking at only a two-wheeler is a good form factor to solve that problem. But I think in the long run, in 5 to 10 years, I do believe there are different form factors for individual commuting devices. And I think as a new technology, we're also looking at other form factors that can provide people a more efficient and as well as more smart, as well as more what we call a style way of conducting those daily commute.
Great. And Edward, for you, where do you see your autonomous flying vehicles fitting into the lives of people in the future?
Well, we believe that in the future, the urban air mobility will be three-dimensional rather than one or two-dimensional. That means we need to look at the skies, so which can provide the necessary supplement to the existing system. Because right now we see the traffic congestion has been a very big headache for most of the big cities. And so there is no such a good solution. So we believe that the 3D transportation will provide a good solution in the future. So that means the people can fly from point 1 to point B, and not only intra-city, but also intercity. So as you can see, China has many big city clusters, such as the Big Bay area and the Yangtze River Delta and the Bohai Bay Rim area. So Ehang is dedicated to not only the intra-city air mobility, but also intercity air mobility. Just recently, we launched a VT30, which can cover a range of more than 300 kilometers. So in the future, the intercity transportation will be connected seamlessly with the intracity transportation, so that people can easily fly from one city to another city. And this can save a lot of time and cost and improve the efficiency. And meanwhile, the all electricity driven power can help to make our environment more greener and more eco-friendly. So this is our vision. And according to industry estimate, the global UAM market will have 1.5 trillion US dollars by 2040. So we believe that the day will come that we are going to see the people are moving not only on the ground, but also in the skies freely and more efficiently.
That's great. And James, just a very quick final one from you. Are people going to stop using public transport and be jumping in your robo-taxis? How do they fit into the future of transport?
Yeah, I think autonomous driving will be one of the main ways of future mobility. In fact, I think now is really the dawn of mass adoption of autonomous driving vehicles. Several key factors all aligned roughly at the same time. We see the key sensors getting smaller and cheaper. We see the computer chips is getting more powerful, and the AI algorithms getting smarter and smarter. with all those factors coming in, we see the price of autonomous driving vehicles will drop substantially over the next several years. And in turn, we'll have the mass production ready. And we'll have more and more regions open for autonomous driving. As we also point out, the regulation and the customer acceptance will follow. So we definitely see the mass adoption will be just down the road.
Great, that wraps up our panel here. I just want to thank our fantastic panelists, James, Yan, and Edward. And I hope all of you watching across the world got some fascinating insights there into what the future of travel might look like.